Welcome to the More Perfect Union, the podcast that offers real debate without the hate, sponsored by BetterHelp.com. I'm Kevin Kelton, and as always, I'm here with Greg Matusak.
Before we get started, I'd like the transcript of the last episode to be read aloud, verbatim, not by me per se, but by our clerk.
That would take hours.
I would take hours, but I'm sorry. I'm a stickler for the rules, and I'm sorry that our listeners have to suffer through this, kind of mumbo jumbo stuff. But hey,
I am so sick of you filibustering this show. And Ward Anderson,
also known as the Sammy Hagar of the More Perfect Union podcast. Hello, dear friends.
Right out the gate, you are starting trouble. Right out the gate, I'm all DL Roth. Oh my gosh, just starting shit right out the gate.
Which is why so many people are upset that I'm here.
I'm not talking about love tonight. Ain't talking about it.
What's love got to do with it? Well, this week,
how do I know when it's love?
And that's it. None of that synthesizer garbage for me. Because Jamie's crying.
Let's talk about, for the 15th week in a row, let's talk about cancel culture, because this week it hit Dr. Seuss, or Seuss, or whatever Ted likes to call himself.
This is like 1984, which is a great Van Halen album, by the way.
With David Lee Roth.
So I got to take control of this circus. So Ward, you had some thoughts on Dr. Seuss this week. I think you might have been just slightly perturbed at all the hubbubaroom. I just made up a word, hubbubaroom.
Well, yeah, and anybody that has seen me on social media has seen me openly mocking this and people being upset about it and angry about it. The irony in all the talk of cancel culture is really that people spend more time complaining about cancel culture than anyone spends complaining about a thing that is supposedly being canceled. It's crazy how the outrage is. Dr. Seuss's company, Seuss Enterprises, decided they're going to stop printing 6 of his books. He has more than 60. They're going to stop printing 6 of them, besides being 6 of the least known and least selling copies. That's one. Of course, there are images in it, cartoon images that Seuss drew that, big surprise, were mainstream in the late 30s, and now they're considered racist. Okay. So they're just removing them from publication. The one of the reasons I've been perturbed by it is just that what people don't realize is Seuss Enterprises has been trying to do this for 10 years, and they did it after multiple studies where they found out how kids responded to those images. And that's why they did it, not because of pressure from a group or anything like that. But more than anything, the reason I thought it was funny is because this all started this week, despite the fact that this was done a year ago. It was done a year ago and no one cared, but one county in Virginia decided not to showcase those books this year in their reading program. By the way, while keeping the books there in the library, they decided not to promote them. The Seuss article got picked up. From there, it turned into, did you know they're not doing these 6 books anymore? And everyone lost their minds over something that happened a year ago.
Yeah.
There's the whole story to everyone who may not know about it, but it all comes down to they had the right to pull them, and they pulled them.
And as you pointed out in about 32 different posts this week, Ward, people are calling it cancel culture. Nobody's canceling Dr. Seuss. His books are still out there. Like you said, he's written over 60 of them. They pulled 6. That leaves 54 or more. The really famous ones, Cat in the Hat, Oh, the Places You'll Go, One Fish, Two Fish, they're all still there. They're all still in print. They're all still in libraries and bookstores. So why people are getting so upset over this, nobody understands.
Well, especially when it was the company itself that decided which titles they thought were inappropriate. It wasn't 6 titles that everyone protested and insisted be canceled. The company decided on its own accord these 6 weren't right.
Greg,
So, I
you're
mean-
an educator. You had thoughts on this.
Well, it wasn't so much about this, but what was really funny, and I kind of see this as it's kind of a rebranding. What we're seeing of the right and the conservative movement right now is rebranding themselves. Because for the past 4 years, they have been a real practical, and whatever you say, whatever you do is for the best of the country, and we're okay with that. And now we're seeing the right is a return to values, a return to family values tour. Okay. And so you're seeing like Dr. Seuss, he's family values. I got 2 family members asking me in the same paragraph, how can you cancel Dr. Seuss and yet still let Cardi B, who they hate, they're like, we've got to cancel Cardi B for her song that's number 1. And I was like, what? Wait, what are you talking about? So they want to take back that whole moral majority thing, which they've lost and they have no right to ask for.
Let Cardi B go to medical school like Dr. Seuss, then she can make a complaint.
I just want to say that the thing is I also, to be fair to conservatives, I also know liberals who are upset about the Dr. Seuss thing. It's not just a right-wing thing or people on the right that are offended by it or angry at it. Okay. But the only thing, forget for a minute whether you think the books are racist or not. Forget that for just 1 second and just know most books go out of print and are then at some point lost and gone forever. We actually just don't save them all. 5,000 books on average per month will go out of print, having barely been read. The average novel sells fewer than 500 copies, okay? We don't save everything. This idea when people say, we're erasing history with this and things like that, I go, 99% of our written history is gone. It just is. And it's not forgotten just because of that.
Okay. And I like the way that TMC, the movie channel, is handling this. They're going to be showing some classic movies that have, because they were made so long ago, they have racist or otherwise inappropriate subject matter tones that probably wouldn't end up in movies today. But they're going to show the movies in their entirety, but have a panel discussion, I think, before and after to talk about that. Right, Ward?
Yeah, I think it's a great idea because not only are they going to present them, but they're presenting the movies uncut and unedited, and some of them without even commercial interruption, right? So that's a great thing because when people do talk about things being banned or taken out of distribution or whatever, they'll often talk about, leave it there for a teachable moment. Leave it there for a teachable moment. And I've always said, just putting it up doesn't teach anybody anything, right? So this is great because this is what that does. It gives that teachable moment, but then it also shows the content uncensored and uncut, right?
Okay.
Yeah,
Great.
but I'll be honest. I tried to show my 11-year-old Casablanca today, and they got through literally 15 minutes of it. And I know
you can't. I can't show my 23 and almost 20-year-old those black and white movies. They won't watch them.
They're like, where's the car chases? Where's the explosions? The pacing is so slow.
Yep.
Maybe if they redo these movies instead of panel discussions, if there's like a better soundtrack, maybe if we get Cardi B to do the soundtrack. I mean, literally, they were like, "Can I leave, please?" I was like, "Rick this is such a good movie."
Okay.
So it's funny you say that because Showtime does have Gone with the Wet Ass Pussy airing later this month.
Oh my goodness, I'm on that.
So listen,
I'm sorry. I just wanted to say, last year the number 2 dead celebrity, as far as earning goes, was Dr. Seuss. The number 1 was Michael Jackson. Okay. That means one guy wrote Horton Hears a Who, and the other one wrote Horton Hears a Who.
Oh, boy. I wish I had a groan button. So we can't be on this topic without going back to Andrew Cuomo, who's still in hot water, possibly rightfully so. Everything that I've read shows it to be behavior that I'm quite uncomfortable with. So here's the question, and I just want to make it very quick. Should he resign? I think everybody would agree that if you believe the reports, and I believe them, if you believe them, his behavior was inappropriate at best and maybe a lot worse. Should a governor, elected governor of a state, resign over something like this?
Short answer, yes. Long answer, yes.
I agree. Yes. I don't know if I see a lot of people, any people, arguing that he shouldn't.
You haven't given me a chance yet.
Are there a lot?
No, I'll tell you.
Far,
I don't think he should resign.
1/3 of the podcasters
kidding.
That I know.
33% of podcasters. I think, listen, I think his behavior was abominable. I think he should not run again, but I think he should finish his term. I do not like ending terms. Now, caveat, I was all for impeaching Donald Trump twice and convicting him, but I think he did things that were gross violations of the Constitution. What Andrew Cuomo did, what Eliot Spitzer did, what Bill Clinton did were, in my opinion, a couple of notches below that. And so I don't think these types of allegations. Now, if he were to have been accused reputably of an actual molestation, that's a different story. But what we're talking about is office behaviors that were inappropriate, that maybe made some women feel that he was coming on to them, and maybe he was. I do not think that the governor of a state, a U.S. senator, or for that matter, a president of the United States, should resign over things of that nature. I know I'm an outlier on this, but that's where I stand.
So, I think maybe, I think sometimes we show our age here. And I know you're a little bit older than I am. And maybe
more than a little, yeah.
Yeah.
20 plus years. Come on.
20 plus years. I'm giving you the benefit of the doubt.
Okay.
I'm trying to be kind to my elders.
You're 25, I'm 46.
You both look your age.
If you're going to get nasty, Ward.
We're both pretty. There was a time where we could say, a senator could crack jokes, but we're kind of past that. We've been past that time. Senators and governors and even local city council, heck, the dog catcher should now know what the rules are. They should know the rules a long time ago. If any of the reports and even the things that he's apologized for, like, okay, so I said these things and maybe I shouldn't have, or that's enough. That should be it. And it's not like they were co-workers. It's not like they were equals. He was way, way, way above the food chain on these things. That should be enough.
Okay. I think that people can be forgiven for such things. I think that the rules are different for politicians.
For elected officials.
And I think they should be. So if this was a person in a company, the boss at a company, okay, maybe. There's an argument to be made. You could talk about that.
Sure.
Right. But I think when it comes to elected officials, even if it's everybody, has to be the sacrificial lamb when this kind of thing goes down. I think that's part of the gig.
There's an argument to be made, and Kevin will make it right now.
No, I was about to say, listen, I get where you guys are coming from. It's not something I can argue. I'm just telling you my personal opinion. It's different than yours, but I can't say you're wrong. It's a value judgment that each person has to make.
And I don't think you're crazy. You know what I mean? So,
yeah. Now, 8 Democratic senators this week nixed the $15 minimum wage, plus, of course, 50 Republican senators. So we didn't get that into the COVID relief bill that was passed by the Senate and apparently now goes back to the House. Is that right?
The COVID relief did pass with 50-49. One Republican senator just didn't show up. They had, golfing. Who knows? I'm kidding. But the $15 minimum wage did get cut out. Krista Sinema of Arizona, a lot of people are upset about.
Yes.
Kristen, excuse me.
Yeah.
A lot of people are upset about her vote. She made a thumbs down in reference to John McCain. And,
on the $15 minimum wage. And I think what Manchin too, correct?
Manchin also, Chris Coon, Angus King. Coons, you're right. Yeah. Angus King of Maine, Tom Carper of Delaware, Shaheen of New Hampshire, John Tester of Montana, Hanson of New Hampshire, and cinema.
So in the Senate, we're just a long way off from being able to pass a minimum wage bill. But, there's a lot of really good stuff in the COVID relief bill. It didn't go as far as a lot of people want because obviously instead of getting $400 unemployment bonuses, it's only $300 per week. And the cap is a little bit lower than people would like for higher income people. But there's a lot of other stuff in there that's poised to help people and help the economy. And I'm thrilled that it passed. I can't wait to see Joe Biden sign it. What do you guys think?
Yeah, the thing that I'm just shocked about is that there weren't more Republicans signing on to this. And okay, laugh. Go ahead and laugh. But remember when it came to the Republican $2 trillion one, almost every Democrat signed on to that. Okay. But this one, okay, the economy is almost guaranteed to go up from here. And you know what? If it fails, if we just go into the tanker, then they can say, okay, yep, this is all on you and Biden. Sure. But this is going to work. So what are they thinking?
I'll tell you what they're thinking. It's simple. If this is a popular bill, right now it looks like it's going to be popular.
It's going to be super popular.
And if it does jumpstart the economy and people are happy to get their money and everything, here's the deal. In 2022, no one's going to go, oh, that senator voted against the bill, so I'm angry at them. Everybody's going to be happy. They're not going to care who voted against it. That's why you could get 50 Republican senators to vote against it, because they get the benefit of it even if they voted against it. The Senate passed it. It happened. That's all people will think about.
Oh, I don't know.
No, he's absolutely right. This would be one thing if it was being done in October, right before the midterm elections or something. But almost everything that's happening right now in general is going to be forgotten by the time the midterms come around, unless they specifically lead to something horrible that leads right up to the election. It's just true. Right. Kevin's totally right about that.
And anything that goes wrong in the world, they can blame on this COVID relief bill, and they can, try to pin it on Joe Biden. So
no. You will see there's money for, COVID vaccine rollout for schools. When the schools reopen faster and the kids are back at school, and if you notice that every street corner, every GD street corner has a rainbow on it. That's in the bill. I don't know if you saw that.
No, I didn't know that.
That was a rainbow, a true rainbow. And it's nonpartisan either. That's the most amazing thing.
I don't know. It sounds LGBTQ to me.
I knew you'd go there. For goodness sake.
This right now sounds like the writing session behind the worst fundraising song I've ever heard.
I thought you were going to say the worst sitcom on TV, and I was about to say you're right because I probably worked on it.
You worked on Heil, Honey, I'm Home?
You worked on your mother-in-law's an automobile?
I remember my mother the car. You guys, again, we're talking age. You guys only know of it in past tense.
In sitcoms and
I've seen it.
YouTube.
Okay.
You know what else? I'm gonna
for
call
those that don't know.
Here. Yeah. What?
I'll just say, for those that don't know, speaking of cancel culture, infamous sitcom that was actually filmed. It was a pilot, an actual pilot that was filmed and never aired in the UK called Heil, Honey, I'm Home.
Yeah,
and it was a sitcom, live sitcom about Hitler and Eva Braun living in the suburbs in the 1960s. I'm not making that up.
I believe it. I believe it.
One of those infamous, what were they thinking pilots that obviously never went to air.
But since we're on the subject of things that I remember and you guys don't, I'm pulling up something up that we have later in the rundown. Walter Cronkite signed off for the last time 40 years ago, a couple of days ago. I think March 6th was the anniversary, and that got a lot of big coverage. And, I wonder what you guys know about Cronkite, what your impression of him is, and if he means anything to you. Because he does to me, because, again, he was an active anchor when I was well aware of the news, probably for at least 15 years until he retired.
No,
I mean, come on. The guy, all the memorable quotes and lines, you know what I mean? Despite his sometimes negative reputation, he helped us to win World War II when he was prime minister of Britain.
Awesome.
I was wondering where you were going with that.
Oh my goodness.
A legend.
A
Man was a
legend. Walked around the office naked.
People hold him in high regard. I certainly do. But I think if Walter Cronkite was working today on CNN or MSNBC or wherever he might be, I think he'd be doing what the other anchors are doing. I don't think that his journalistic ethics or his sense of journalism would have made him any different than Anderson Cooper or Chris Wallace or, the other respected reporters. I'm not talking about some of the so-called commentators who are allowed to be a little bit more speculative and wild. But this reverence for Cronkite, it was a great broadcaster, and he was great in his time. But I'm not sure that all of those guys from CBS in the 1950s and NBC News in the 1960s, and I could rattle off names, David Brinkley, Chet Huntley, Edward Newman, those guys, I don't think
Who else can you name, Mr. McCarthy? Who else can you name?
Well, one of them I wrote comedy with on Saturday Night Live. Should I drop Edward Newman's name? But
tell us about Mr. Piscopo, sir.
Anyways, we don't have to spend a lot of time on that.
Hold on. Let me just say real quickly. That's a really good point about Cronkite. I think that's actually a really good point. And at the same time, though, couldn't it be argued that today's newscasters are as they are because everyone is kind of aping Walter Cronkite?
No, I don't think that they study him at all. I think that maybe they do. I shouldn't say that. Maybe Anderson Cooper does study them like, you would study stand-up comedians or I would study, movie writers and screenwriters.
Well, so if when you say to a comedian, like, who's your idol and who do you think of that made you want to be a comedian? And they'll say George Carlin or Richard Pryor, these names, right?
Right. Maybe
for journalists, Walter Cronkite is that person.
Yeah.
And so it's essentially everyone is kind of copying his persona to a degree.
Again, if they remember him, we're going back, like I said, his last broadcast was 40 years ago. George Carlin is only dead about, 10, 12 years. Now, listeners, if I'm wrong on that, I'm just, spitballing off the top of my head. So don't hold me to that.
It's 13 years this year. So you're right about that.
Oh, okay. But, we don't talk about London Lee anymore. We don't talk about comics that died in 1980. So, yeah.
And those that are alive, that some of them were, you're right. I mean, you're totally right. It's kind of funny because just for that second, I thought, well, what if modern newscasting essentially is owed to Walter Cronkite? The way some people would say Orson Welles created cinema the way that we envision it now, right? But you're also right. It's probably a generational thing, and I don't know that he would have had that impact with today's generation of broadcasters.
Yeah. So, okay, moving on to other subjects. The FDA has finally given approval to Johnson & Johnson's one-time only COVID vaccine. They call it a game changer. I hope they're right. The White House and the CDC are saying that all adults who want a vaccine now have the opportunity probably to be vaccinated by June. I don't know if that's early June or late June. And they're even saying that high school students could be vaccinated in large numbers by the fall, at least according to Dr. Fauci. So, guys, are we getting back to normal earlier than we thought?
I don't know. I would love to think we are. I check the numbers almost every day. That's literally my. It's sad that I still do this, but I open up my computer, I check the weather, but then I check the COVID numbers for my state, for my region, for my country. And every day the numbers are kind of plateauing, kind of going down, kind of plateauing. And we are getting better and it is getting close, but we still have to wear the masks. So by June, by the summer, Maybe. Hopefully by the fall, the kids will be going. We'll go back to football season, marching band weather. It's kind of exciting.
It is exciting. I actually think it's going to happen sooner than that. Whether it should or not is a different question. As everybody knows, I live in Texas now, and as everybody knows, Governor Abbott lifted the mask mandate this past week. Now people do not have to wear masks anymore. Although, to report to you guys, a lot of individual businesses are still saying, regardless of that, we are asking our customers and our employees to continue wearing masks. That's nice. But, I'm out on the streets and I'm seeing that the masks are coming a little bit less often and a little bit more far between.
So if you're in, let's say you guys don't have Kroger down there. What do you guys?
We have something called HEB.
HEB. So if you're in an HEB and it says, hey, you need to wear masks, are people wearing masks?
Most are. Unfortunately, more and more are not. It's still probably only 15%.
15? Like 1.5?
Yeah, like that are not wearing masks.
Oh, okay.
I'm sorry.
No, you had me scared. I was
it should be 2%. So when you do 0%. See somebody or a family of people, walking down the aisle or come up behind you when you're waiting to check out and they're not wearing masks, and you can't even say anything anymore. Greg, we had those discussions much earlier in the whole mask environment where you talked about actually confronting people, but now you can't say anything.
Yeah, it's weird. If you don't see someone wearing a mask in Ohio, at least in my area, I know in some of the more rural areas, a lot of times they won't wear masks. But in the area that I live in, if you don't see, people are shocked. People will point, and like you said earlier in the people would not wear masks and not think about it. And if I said something, they would look at me like I was the asshole.
Yeah.
Like I was the one who had the issue. And now they're all like, oh, not me. I've been wearing a mask the entire time.
Well, I'm afraid we're going to get to the point where people like you and I assume Ward as well, who will still continue to wear masks. I think that we are going to start to get peer pressure about that. What bugs me, I was in Georgetown just yesterday, and okay, people are walking around outdoors without masks. That's their prerogative. But if you're walking down the sidewalk and you see someone coming the other way and they're wearing a mask, give them 6 feet. Don't crowd them. At least respect their space.
Yeah. Don't be a dick. That's the easiest way to put
but they
that,
are. They're dicks.
Yeah, exactly. But, and look what's happened this past week. Mississippi, the Republicans of Mississippi are trying to pass a law where if you wear a mask in public, it must be a banned racist Dr. Seuss image on the mask.
Well, I know I'm in favor of that.
At what point is it just being cruel? At what point are you just being blatant about it, people?
Well, we joke about that, but there's also a story in the news that apparently they had a public mask burning or a series of rallies where we burn the mask rallies in Idaho this week.
Right.
And even kids were throwing masks in the bonfire. And I just say to that, that's really bad Smokey the Bear habits, frankly.
Come on out to the mask burning. We're going to rock and roll while we stop, drop, and roll.
Do you know the full story about that mask burning? I mean, I've seen pictures, and I assume they ran out of potatoes.
It was on Sunday.
Tell us. What is the whole story?
I don't know. People keep sending me this picture and being like, Idaho, race to the bottom. I don't know.
They're still upset about Mr. Potato Head. They're really.
You're getting your vaccine this week.
So I guess I should talk about this because, we try to be very open and candid on the podcast about things that we're proud of and things that maybe we shouldn't be proud of. And so Greg and I are going to talk a little bit about our situation, and Ward, you can chime in with yours. I don't actually remember if you told us about it yet, but my situation is this. I live in a state, I live in Texas, where they are not yet giving the shot to people under 65, and I'm still under 65, even with comorbidities. And they are prioritizing people differently than other states. Okay, each state is doing it differently. Now, I also happen to have a second residence still in California. And it turns out that because of my employment as a college level educator, I can get my shot in California. So tomorrow, I'm getting on a plane and going to Los Angeles and getting my first vaccine. And it wasn't an easy choice because I'm a kind of cheap guy and I didn't want to cut for the airfare and go into pocket for a rental car, which I'm going to have to get. But like I said, I kind of weighed that against my life. And I said, people here are going to stop wearing masks. It's going to get a lot more risky. There are some other factors of my particular lifestyle that put me at a greater risk of being exposed to COVID. And so Jessica and I made the decision to get our shots in Los Angeles.
Yeah, I'm getting my second vaccine shot a week from tomorrow, actually.
Your second one, great.
My second one, yeah. And it turns out, like you said, each state has their own priority list. Ohio has been criticized that we still haven't vaccinated police officers. I think they just might have gone on the list this week. We've done healthcare workers. We've done educators. We are just now doing primary educators. And we've done the elderly, of course. But it was a phase 1B or 2B, which happened about 2-3 weeks ago, was people with long-term diseases. And I have epilepsy. I take many pills for them. And if I don't take these pills, there's severe consequences. And it's something that as long as my medication is on, it's not a big deal. If I don't take it, well, that's a whole nother story. But I got pushback from people.
Really?
Yeah, I got pushback from people who said because they didn't think that, me having epilepsy was a real one. Some people said that because they've never actually seen me have a seizure, that maybe I didn't actually have epilepsy.
They don't believe you have epilepsy, or they're saying, well, maybe you do, but it's under control because of medication. Therefore,
and maybe I shouldn't have it. And I kept everyone who said that. I said, you know what? You're not a doctor. And two, that maybe I'm taking a vaccine from someone who really needs it, which I kind of thought was shitty from, everybody.
And just so you know, I can totally sympathize with you because no one read the books I wrote, and yet I still wrote them.
Yeah, it's very similar.
Exactly.
It's very similar. If I have a seizure in the middle of the woods, did I still have a seizure?
Exactly. People are always like, you didn't, no. And I'm like, no, you just didn't read it.
Listen, people who have severe diabetes are on the 1B or depending on state 1C list.
Yes.
They are treating their diabetes. That doesn't mean that they're about to die from it. So you're treating your epilepsy, but you still have it.
Right.
Yes, absolutely.
Yeah.
And
exactly.
I mean, I get it. There are some loopholes that people will think are unfair, right? I believe because of a friend of mine has a job working in the health industry, and so therefore is on the top of the list or whatever, and denied it because he said, I work from home. You know what I mean? I don't actually work on the front line. I work in the health industry. And he actually just declined to take it for that reason, right? But you don't have to be a frontline worker to be a necessary worker or an essential worker. And you don't have to be visibly shaking and twitching on the ground in order to be at risk either. You know what I mean? So
and then there's also the question of, are we still at the level where it's frontline workers and essential workers, or should it be given to people who are exposed because they simply have to deal with the public in their job? For instance, Jessica teaches Pilates And, as a trainer, an exercise person, she goes to a studio because that's where her job is. That's where her livelihood is. And she deals with people all day long, many not wearing masks. I think that should be reason enough for her to be given a shot.
And her business, and it also entails her having to interact with as many people as possible in order to make a profit.
And she is providing a very important service to people. This is their health. This is how they stay in shape. This is how they keep their cholesterol down. This helps people who are in tremendous pain. So it's not like, she's handing out ice cream pops.
No, I mean, I think that's just it. I think the argument can be made for lots of professions. And I do think there's something to be said about people who are just in contact with the public all the time. What about delivery people?
Of course.
Right?
Well, they're considered essential workers, I think.
Yeah.
I hope so. And I mean, like I said, we depended on them more than almost anybody throughout all of this, right?
Yeah. So anyways, but Ward, have you been vaccinated yet?
No.
Oh, because your wife, I know, has a very important job in Canada that, entails COVID work. Yeah.
But same scenario, right? Like she doesn't do anything that puts her at risk as part of that job.
Okay.
So I don't think she'd be eligible, but if she were, we probably still wouldn't do it. My parents were, however, and my brother, he was vaccinated because he's actually the head of IT for a hospital. So, obviously.
Oh, that's essential. Sure.
Yeah.
Yeah, absolutely.
It's funny because a lot of people don't think about those jobs, right?
Yeah. So I'm flying back to California tomorrow. When I'm back here next week, I'll tell you about my travels and what it was like and if I got my shot and how it went. And, what else can I tell you?
Get us some Mickey Mouse ears at Disneyland while you're there.
Oh, absolutely. Absolutely. Because, of course, every time I go to Los Angeles, of course, I go to Disneyland.
Yeah.
Who doesn't?
Who doesn't?
That's where all the cool kids hang out.
Well, with that, I guess we should say thank you for listening. We're going to do kind of a shorter podcast this week because I do have to jump on a plane tomorrow and I have to edit this thing and put it on the air, or at least up on the web, whatever you call that. So if you like what we do here, please follow us on Twitter at MPU Podcast and on Instagram at MPU Fan Club. And please share our link on your Facebook timeline so your friends can discover us as well. Check out our Facebook political group, Open Fire Politics and Entertainment. You can talk about entertainment there. You can talk about politics there. You can talk about the COVID vaccine there. And you can talk about ice cream pops there. We don't care. Just come and talk. And with that, guys, what is on the priority list for you for the week to come?
I'm trying to recover from watching WandaVision. Who saw the ending coming? The whole, I don't want to spoil. I don't want to spoil the ending. It was
Robert Downey Jr.
Oh! You gave too much away.
I don't know whether he did or not. I don't know whether Robert Downey Jr. is even involved in it.
If you get a chance to watch WandaVision, do it. It's on HBO. It's on Disney Plus, and highly recommend it.
And if you really want to highlight and improve the experience, wear your Mickey Mouse ears while you're watching it.